Hello YouTube. Time for another review or demo, I don't know, whichever you want to call it. Today we're looking at the Peavey 6505MH. I know there's a bunch of demos out there already on this amp, but I'm going to do one of my own. So here we go. We're going to go through it right now. I'm going to be using my trusty Sterling by Music Man, my John Petrucci 150. Love that guitar. This thing is literally brand new. I've used it for approximately a half an hour just to get some ideas of what the tones are like. I've used it on all three settings because in the back of this amp, as we'll see in a second, there is a switch that allows you to change it from 1 watt to 5 watts to 20 watts. So right there we got a little switch. Right now we're in the 1 watt. In a little while we're going to switch it to the 5 watt, and then we'll switch it to the 20 watt because this amp does sound different in all three settings. I'm not going to go over the outputs that you can send. Like this guy's got a speaker emulated output, and then you've got a USB output that you can use. Of course, I'm going through my trusty orange 212 cab, which is loaded with vintage 30s. Maybe we'll throw a 7-string on there, I don't know. But I will say I might put my Strat on here too, which is over here. My lovely little Strat. I might put that on there as well, just so you can hear that, because personally I don't like the way this amp sounds with my Stratocaster. So, having said that, we're going to go right to playing through this. I'm going to use my John Petrucci JP150. We're going to get cooking. We got the tubes warmed up for a few minutes now. Did that prior to turning on the camera. Okay, today I will be using this pick, which is an Eric Johnson jazz pick, which has incredible tone. And yes, your pick affects the tone. Some people will be like, it's just a pick. It's not just a pick, man. Your pick is the first thing that initiates your tone, is your pick. And then your strings and your guitar, cable, whatever. So we're going to turn on the tubes right now. It's in standby. Standby is turned off, which means that power is enabled to the tubes. The tubes will warm up once they're been on for a few minutes. Most tube amps, you want to give them a good 30 seconds minimum. You want the tubes to warm up a little bit before you start putting some tones into them. Alright. So, amp is on. I have the foot switch back here in front of me on the floor. And right now it's on the dirty channel. I'm going to switch it. And I'm over on the clean channel now. So, real quick, I want to talk about this clean channel because I think I have a problem with it. If I'm playing through my clean channel, now right there I can hear that it's breaking up, and I'm barely picking on my guitar. Okay, it's breaking up. I do have the crunch enabled on the amp, but it's not actually on. The foot switch has it shut off. I can turn it on here. So that's the crunch channel. So the crunch is off. I know the button shows that it's on, but it is off. Now my gain is just about at 6 on the knob, and I'm breaking up on my clean, which is kind of a bad thing to me. Now if I want to get clean, I got to go back to around the 4, and that cleans up. You can still hear a tiny bit of breakup. So it does break up a little bit, which I don't really like. I want my clean to be clean. And being around 4 on the gain shouldn't give me a crunchy tone yet, I don't think. Especially if I'm running through a clean channel. Now my rhythm volume, I'm on 1 watt of course, so I'm pretty low volume in the room, is up around 7. And of course where you set your gain will change how loud this is. Right, so if I turn my gain up a bit, it gets significantly louder, but my crunch comes in too. So even back at 4, It's not very clean. Now I'm going to turn the rhythm all the way up. I don't know if you can hear me, but it's over the amp while it's playing, but it's really quiet. If you were standing next to my house, right next to my window, you probably wouldn't hear that outside. It's that quiet. And that channel is cranked all the way up. My gain's on 4. Now this is the problem I have with this channel, is it's not clean. So it's breaking up already. So if you're looking for a head that can handle nice pristine cleans, this isn't the one. So that's how the clean channel sounds. And I'm on the neck pickup of my guitar right now. So it doesn't get very clean, and I don't have the bright switch enabled either, so I'm going to enable that now so you can hear the difference. So now the bright is enabled, and it starts to crunch even more. So now I'm going to turn on the crunch channel, which is what some people consider the third channel of this 2-channel amp. So clicking on the crunch, and now I get a lot more crunch. And I'm still on my neck pickup. I'm now switching to my bridge pickup. And this gives you a pretty good bluesy-ish, but more of like a classic rock kind of a tone. Right, so you get a pretty convincing classic rock tone. So if you like that sound, that gets it to you pretty quickly. It sounds actually pretty good. The EQ on this amp is very, very responsive. I'm not even going to bother showing you the low end because I've discovered that on this camera you don't hear it on YouTube land because of the compression that happens. So the low end, I will tell you, it works really good. My speakers are getting a good thump. A good bump is coming out of them speakers. The mids I can show you and the highs I can show you. So I'm just going to quickly change them with a little note going. So you get the full scoop right there. With the mids full on, you get a nice honk out of this thing. I prefer them to be around here, around the 4 o'clock is my favorite spot. And now the highs, right? I'm going to turn them all the way off and you start to get that wet blanket sound. It could be called the next room over tone. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like you're listening to it through the wall. Right there it starts to get a little bit more present. Turn it up a bit more. Now, right at the halfway point, it really starts to open up a bit with the highs. Okay, we'll go up the dial. We're going to crank it up to about 7. Sounds pretty nice all the way up. It's still very usable. It starts to get very glassy at this point. My preference would be right back around the 6 o'clock-ish. I like the mids right at the 4. I like the lows about 7. It gets a pretty decent tone. Now the one thing about this little amp is that that EQ is shared between your rhythm channel and your lead channel. So you can't have two different EQ curves on your two different tones that you can get, or in theory your 3 different tones that you can get. So having said that, I'm going to go over to the dirty channel now, and I'm going to pull the gain way down, and I'm going to show you that this thing gets gain real fast. So my lead channel is up about halfway, and with the gain all the way off, you get no signal. You know, you can hear it a tiny bit, but that's it. As soon as you hit the 1, you start to get some gain. And you start to get some gain. Like, that's already heavy. Like, that's a usable tone on 1. On the 1 watt setting. It does change between the different wattage settings. You'll hear that in a few minutes. I'm going to show that to you. But you get crazy gain right off the start. So I'm going to bring this up to about 2, and you can hear the amp start to buzz a little bit. And you start to get a little bit more hairy on your gain signal. It's already like totally usable for me. I should also mention that my reverb is on, and it's almost at halfway. If I shut that off, you get that dry. Which is usually pretty good to do when you're showing the gain channel, so you can really hear how much it saturates without the reverb in the way. Now that's with the gain like on 2. So if we start bringing this up the knob, from 2 to 3 you can hear a volume difference. But the gain's still pretty awesome. Go up to 4. And the gain still sounds kind of the same. It didn't change the tone of the gain, or the roundness of the gain, or the hairiness of it. It just got a little louder. It's really tight, it's very responsive. I really like the gain right there on this amp, right around the 4. Even when you change through the different wattage settings, I found that to be right about where I would use this amp. Now once you go to 5 and above, you start to get a lot hairier. And what I mean by hairier is you can start to hear a little bit of a fizz in the gain, like a zzzz that starts to occur. It's a lot more present when you play leads. You'll hear the fizz a lot more on the lead side of things. So if I play some leads, you can hear them starting to get hairy. So that's at 5. I'm going to jack it up to 7. And you can hear my guitar wants to start feeding back at that point because the gain is pretty substantial. So I don't know if you can hear it, but on those notes you hear a lot of hair. This gain is too much in my opinion. It's a lot. I'm going to crank it up all the way so you can hear that. And of course I'm 3 feet away from the amp, so it's going to try to feed back. I've rolled my volume down on my guitar and it doesn't clean up a lot. This is not the setting for rolling down your knob and getting clean. But if I back this up to about the 4 position, which is where I prefer the gain, there's still tons of gain, but now when I roll my volume down, it cleans up a little, you know, enough to be usable to hear chords. I wouldn't say it cleans up a lot, but you can get away with doing that to lower your volume down and get some dynamics going in your songs. But that's my preferred spot on the knob. Now I'm going to turn the lead channel up, and you're going to hear once you get past the 6 o'clock, or not the 6, but the 6 o'clock, but the 6 position on the knob, you start to round out your gain stage. The sound starts to really get less hairy and it starts to round out. So I'm going to go up to 7. It's going to be a lot louder. But you'll hear, I hope it doesn't over saturate my camera mic, but you start to hear the sound round out a little bit in the gain. It's really nice. I like it a lot. So I'm going to turn it all the way up. It's going to be a lot louder. Hopefully it doesn't distort on the camera because I'm very close to the amp, but we'll see. So I'm going to turn the gain up on the channel so you can hear how it sounds when it's cranked. So you immediately get that, you know, rushing water sound that every gain channel gets. But here's what it sounds like. So I don't know if you can hear that, but it really farts out. And it's not super loud. Like the setting right now on 1 watt, there's no way you're playing with a band. It's not that loud. But even on the 1 watt channel, that farts out when you get your gain up past the 8 position on the knob and you're turned all the way up. It just farts out. I don't know why, but it does. I've tried it with the resonance down, and it doesn't fart quite as much, but it still farts. The resonance I'm not even going to show you because the YouTube compression, you can't hear the difference that it does with the amp. I've done a sample already, you can't hear it. The presence you can hear. The presence right now I have set to 4 on the dial, and it really changes. It makes a big difference. So it starts to lose a little bit of that top end glassiness. Wide open is just, it's too hot of a signal. It's very, very high frequency. Back around 4 is where I find it to be the most usable sound. Okay, so that's the 1 watt setting. So now I'm going to change it over to the 5 watt channel, and I'm just turning this down because it's going to be a lot louder than the 1 watt. Go back to the clean channel, and I'll flip the switch back here from 1. I gotta turn this off first. So it's always good, put it in standby before you change the wattage. You don't want to send a spike into your tubes. You could end up blowing them, in theory. So now it's been off. I can put it up on 5 watt, and I can turn it back on. Okay, and I'm back on the clean channel now. So still on the clean channel, my crunch is turned off on the pedal, but it still has a little bit of breakup going on. So you're never going to get a pristine clean out of this amp. That's a fact. Now I just turn the crunch on, and it gets pretty crunchy. So I turn this up a bit. Right, so you start to get a little good crunch going. But it's a different sound. I don't know where in the video, if you want to click back and hear the difference. The tone is different. It's a little fuller, and that's probably because the tubes are getting hit harder. The theory behind that, though, is that the power gets attenuated after the tubes. So that attenuation does something to the tone, a little bit. I have to assume, because the tone does sound different now. Now that's the clean and crunch. If I go over to the dirty channel, that sounds glorious to me. That sounds really, really good. That's probably where I would use this on this amp, is these settings that I have it on right now. Alright, so I'm going to turn this up a little bit so you can hear the difference. Again, it changes the sound once it gets past the 6 o'clock, or the 6 on the knob rather. I keep saying 6 o'clock. So 7, that's going to be pretty loud. Sounds very loud. I don't know if you get away with playing with the band on that 5 watt, but it's still pretty loud. My neighbors can hear that, that's for sure. But I don't know if you're going to be over a drummer. But then again, I haven't put that to the test yet, so we'll have to check that at the band room. But on the 5 watt setting, it's still pretty loud. Like, this is too loud for me to play in my house. But that's an incredible sound. I love it. All the way up is going to be, my girlfriend's going to want to punch my balls. But let's see. So you can hear it farting when it's all the way up like that. And my gain is not even halfway. So it's farting right like that. So I'm not sure if that's a good thing. But that's the 5 watt. We're going to shut this off and go to the 20 watt. Of course, before I do that, I'm going to turn these bastards down, because the 20 watt is significantly louder than 5 or 1, obviously. I just unplugged my guitar because I'm a meathead. There we go. Alright, so the tubes are off. Flip my switch up to the 20. Turn my tubes back on. And now we're on 20. So I turned it back down. Now we're on 3 on the lead channel. And that's damn near as loud as it was full. I'd say full on 5. It's probably about here. Yeah, that is exactly how loud the 5 watt was at full. So on 4, on your volume here, or your post gain as they call it, maybe in between 4 and 5, really. That's about as loud as your 5 watt setting gets. Okay, and we're on the 20 watt setting right now. So right there, we still get a little bit of a hairy sound and gain. So now, it's not farting at all, but that's just as loud as the full-blown 5 watt setting was. And it was farting. Now it's that loud, but it's not farting. It's very close to being band volume. I would say band volume on this amp is probably right about here. Now I don't know if you can tell, but in the room, the gain stage is significantly less hairy. And what I mean by hairy is that fizz, that zzz, that zzz, that high Z that you get on the lower wattage settings. You don't get that. So now the gain on here, on the 20 watt channel, I would probably turn the gain up a little bit for myself. Probably go right about to the almost 6 position. That to me is such a super good rock tone. That sounds great. Add a little reverb in there. Put it around 3.5, 3 3/4. Alright, so you can hear the taper on that reverb is pretty long. Alright, so the reverb all the way up will probably cause some feedback. Because it hangs out, man. That's a long reverb. Probably around 3 is where I would put it on this. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, so we're going to go back over to the clean channel. I'm going to disengage the crunch so you can hear how the clean sounds when you're up on the 20 watt setting. So again, crunch is turned off. I'm still breaking up on my clean. I don't think I'll get over that. That bugs me. So we get a nice... Still gets a little breakup. Go to the crunch. again, you have that very usable classic rock tones. So that's about it. I think what I haven't shown you yet is the high gain on the 20 watt. If I put it way up, you get like waterfall sounds. And then we get this tone. So it's a little bit bass heavy. I would probably turn this down now. Very, very hot. I like it back here on the 20 watt. I like it on 6. On the 5 and on the 1, I like it back on the 4. So you get different tones from the different selections of wattage that you use. So they don't all sound alike. That's one of the things that I've found on this amp. But that's it for now. That's all I'm going to give you. That's all I really have, because I'm not using any of the speaker outs or anything. So leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Yeah, stay tuned. I got another amp that I'm going to do next. I got a orange amp coming up next. Can't remember which one, but I got an orange amp that I'm going to put to the test here. So I hope you liked it. That's the Peavey 6505 MH. I'm Chris. Take it easy, YouTube.